If I did not tell you the name of this land, you would probably think the images before your eyes were simply scenes from a peaceful and beautiful Mediterranean coast. But no, what you are looking at is not the present. It is the memory of a place the world now knows only through ruin. The past of a place that once had sunshine, laughter, streets full of life, and days of peace that seemed as though they would last forever. And today, many parts of that place are left with nothing but dust, broken bricks, collapsed walls, and the heavy silence that follows destruction. The world has grown used to seeing Gaza through the images of war. But before it became a symbol of ruin, how beautiful was this place? And amid such overwhelming loss, what have its people held on to in order to keep going? Today, without judging right or wrong, let us set every political prejudice aside and begin a journey to rediscover the stolen beauty of the Gaza Strip. If there is one image that anchors the soul of Palestine, it is Jerusalem. Here, the land rises, not through mountains or towers, but through stone, pale limestone, ancient walls, domes, stairways, cypress lines, and rooftops that catch the late sun like burnished gold. This is the kind of footage that immediately gives a film authority. Aerial views over the old city, long shots from the Mount of Olives, narrow lanes disappearing into shadow, and sacred architecture layered into one unforgettable skyline. Jerusalem does not need exaggeration. It already carries the weight of centuries in its surfaces. In the morning, it can feel austere and still. At sunset, it becomes luminous. The city seems to glow from within, as if history itself were reflecting light back into the sky. For a documentary about Palestine, Jerusalem is not just a location. It is the visual proof that this land has always been more than a headline, enduring, monumental, and impossible to reduce to one single story. South of Jerusalem, the mood softens. Bethlehem brings a different kind of beauty, less monumental, more intimate, but no less powerful on camera. Here, the visual language changes to church towers, warm stone facades, old streets, and the slow, grounded atmosphere of a town carried by memory. The Church of the Nativity gives the frame an immediate sense of depth and recognition, while the old pilgrimage route adds movement, texture, and scale. Not far away, Battir opens the landscape outward again. Its terraced hills, old irrigation channels, olive trees, and dry stone walls create some of the most cinematic rural images in Palestine. These are scenes that stock libraries often capture beautifully. Layered green hills, narrow paths through terraces, distant villages, and evening light settling across cultivated land. Together, Bethlehem and Batier offer something rare in one sequence: sacred architecture and living landscape, both quiet, both timeless, both instantly giving the film a richer and more beautiful rhythm. Then comes Hebron, where Palestine feels older, denser, and built from endurance. This is a city of limestone walls, vaulted passages, old market lanes, heavy doors, and architecture that seems shaped by trade, faith, and centuries of repetition. Hebron works on screen because it has texture in every direction. The eye finds arches, stone steps, carved facades, narrow alleys, and light slipping through covered souks. It is not the wide beauty of open country. It is the layered beauty of an old city that has held its form for generations. In footage, Hebron often feels grounded and tactile, a place you can almost touch through the screen. The old town carries a visual density that contrasts perfectly with the open hills and coast seen elsewhere in Palestine. That contrast matters. It keeps the documentary alive. And in Hebron, the film gains another essential tone. Not just sacredness or scenery, but weight, the beauty of stone, labor, memory, and time pressed tightly together in one enduring urban fabric. From the highlands, the film can fall suddenly into a very different world. Jericho and the Jordan Valley. This is one of the easiest tonal shifts to build with stock because everything changes at once: the color of the land, the width of the sky, the presence of palms, the desert heat, the long roads, and the stark openness of the valley floor. Jericho gives Palestine a brighter, older, almost elemental face. Ancient tell sites, desert edges, oasis, greenery, and the spring-fed landscape around Tel Es Sultan create footage that feels both archaeological and alive. Then the frame can widen toward the Dead Sea, where the land turns spare and luminous, and the whole valley begins to look almost otherworldly. This section matters because it breaks the expectation that Palestine is only hills and stone cities. It adds palm groves, desert light, exposed horizons, and one of the oldest human landscapes in the world. On screen, Jericho feels ancient, open, and sun-struck, a completely different register of beauty. Farther north, the tone changes again. Around Nablus, Palestine becomes a land of folded hills, stone-built neighborhoods, olive-covered slopes, and valleys that tighten and open with every turn of the road. This is where the documentary can lean into depth and layering. Wide shots of hill towns, winding roads, terraced ridges, mosque silhouettes, and old urban fabric give the film a sense of movement through a lived landscape rather than a single landmark. Nablus works visually because it combines both city and mountain atmosphere. It feels elevated, enclosed, and rooted at the same time. The light also behaves differently here. Morning can be cool and pale over the hills, while late afternoon turns the stone warm and the olive groves silver green. After Jerusalem, Bethlehem, Hebron, and Jericho, this northern sequence keeps the film fresh. It reminds the viewer that Palestine is not one texture or one skyline, but a changing geography of ridges, valleys, old cities, and cultivated slopes. No image may be more quietly Palestinian than the hill country itself. Olive trees spreading across slopes, terraces cut into the earth, village rooftops on ridgelines, and roads that bend through one valley after another beneath a wide and patient sky. This is where the documentary can breathe. Not every sequence needs a famous landmark. Some of the strongest footage will come from the connective tissue of the land, the roads between cities, the stone retaining walls, the groves, the lone minaret above a village, the distant church tower, the fields turning gold in late afternoon. These are the images that make a place feel inhabited by history, rather than simply visited by tourists. They are also the easiest to edit into transitions, because they carry motion without chaos and beauty without spectacle. In a stronger version of this film, Palestine should not appear only through iconic monuments. It should also appear through its agricultural backbone, its rural geometry, and the olive-covered highlands that give so much of the land its enduring visual identity. And then the film returns to Gaza, not first through destruction, but through the sea. Before the frame filled with dust and ruin, Gaza had a coastal beauty the world rarely paused to see carefully enough. The Mediterranean opened the strip with light, air, horizon, and movement. Fishing boats, harbor walls, sea roads, low skylines, and evening reflections gave Gaza a visual language unlike any other part of Palestine. The coast made the land feel open, even when the strip itself was narrow. This is where stock footage can become most emotionally powerful. Pale blue water, narrow beaches, rooftops facing west, old neighborhoods behind the shore, and the sun dropping into the sea beyond a crowded city. Near Nusayrat, the ruins of St. Hilarion add another layer ancient stone on coastal dunes, proof that Gaza was never only a modern crisis point, but also part of a much older civilizational landscape. In the structure of the film, Gaza should arrive not as noise, but as stolen light. After moving through cities, valleys, terraces, and coastlines, the documentary needs one part that gathers everything into atmosphere. This is where rooftops become important. Across Palestine, from old urban quarters to hill towns and coastal neighborhoods, the view from above creates one of the strongest recurring motifs in the entire film. Flat roofs, domes, church towers, minarets, stairways, satellite dishes, courtyards, water tanks, and distant ridgelines all begin to merge into one visual language. At golden hour, that language becomes unforgettable. Stone warms. Concrete softens. Shadows lengthen. The skyline stops feeling crowded and starts feeling lyrical. This is the time of day when even ordinary buildings gain dignity and the landscape seems to hold its breath before night. For editing, this part is invaluable. It allows aerials, sunset city shots, ridgeline villages, and coastal skylines to flow together with elegance. More than any single landmark, this evening light reveals what the documentary has really been searching for all along. Not just famous places, but a land that once held beauty almost everywhere the light could reach. In the end, Palestine's beauty is not contained in one city or one sacred site. It lives in the way all these landscapes answer one another. Jerusalem in stone and gold, Bethlehem in memory, Battir in terraces, Hebron in arches, Jericho in desert light, the northern hills in olive green, and Gaza in the openness of the sea. That is what makes the loss feel so deep. This was never a land of only one image. It was a land of many textures, many horizons, many forms of quiet grandeur. And perhaps that is why it matters to film it this way, not to deny pain and not to replace reality with nostalgia, but to remember that beauty existed here with real weight, real history, and real presence. When a place becomes known only through suffering, the world slowly forgets what was taken from it. This film should refuse that forgetting. Because before the smoke, before the rubble, before the headlines hardened into habit, Palestine was, and in memory, still remains, a landscape of light,